Yeah, let's do a little white supremacy. White supremacy. Here we go. Why not? Why not? Those white shenanigans are getting out of hand.
What's in the box?
Cover those eyes. It's gonna hurt.
I think it's time that we discuss the intersectionality between fat phobia, ableism, and white supremacy.
Jesus Christ.
You're not making this easy on me, boy.
Oh, when veganism goes wrong, as it oft does. Whoo.
You lose.
All three of these concepts center around the idea that there is one correct body type, and that body type is a thin, white, able-bodied person. Other than that, how do these all intersect? Let's start with the white supremacist origins of fat phobia. Up into the 18th century, full-figured women were the ideal body type.
Give me some fearing the black body. I know it. I'm calling. Come on. What's the over under on that? Come on. Fearing the black body. She's going to say fearing the black body, something by Sabrina Strings or that idiot. I call it. I'm calling it. You're going black body. You're going fearing the black body.
During the slave trade and in the time following
do it.
we stopped seeing being full-figured
You read that book, didn't you?
as a positive sign and started attributing it to black women.
Come on.
Instead of being seen as a sign of prosperity and fertility, being in a larger body began to be seen as a sign of laziness and an inability to control one's desires.
Quote it.
Essentially, being fat began to be seen as a moral failing, and the essential Anglo-Saxon woman was thin and could control her desires.
Okay.
Fast forward a couple hundred years, and we still view being thin as some type of moral superiority.
Well, it's just not being a fat, lazy fuck and eating vegetable oils and exercising, getting sunlight and, being a human. We've been eating grains and bread and peasant food for a long time. That's what happened with the industrial. All right, whatever. Let's forget it.
Unless you're too thin like me. Unless you're too thin because you have a disability. In which case, why are you disabled? Is it because of what I eat? Is it because of what I've done? Is it because I don't try hard enough? Is it because...
Are you going to tell us what the issue is? Or are you just going to beg for attention and compassion? Like, if you're going to spout bullshit, like, give us some context. Come on.
Because I don't pray hard enough. Disability in our society is also often viewed as a body that is wrong in some way. With that as our starting point, you can also see how black and brown bodies have been pathologized to be considered wrong.
No one has ever pathologized a black or a brown body to be wrong. No one's saying your body's wrong. We're saying you should take care of it. We're not saying everyone's going to look exactly the same, but you're not going to be morbidly obese if you take care of yourself. That's it. That's it, Cope. That's it. Come on.
Look at racism, ableism, and fat phobia. All of these are taking characteristics that people have little or no control over.
I'm going to scroll back. Let's see. Wait. Racism, ableism, and fat phobia. These are characteristics taking into characteristics people have little or no control over. What was this? Ableism?
Wrong. When we look at racism, ableism, and
yeah, if you don't have legs, I'm sure you didn't choose that. If you have more melanin, you didn't choose your parents. You're going to be what you are. The fat phobia thing, I mean, if someone's fat, like look, you're lumping in something that's a choice and a result of your lifestyle habits with things that you can't control. Just because you said them in one sentence doesn't mean it's all the same thing. Just because you said it in one breath doesn't make them all equal. That's stupid. Is that your disability? Stupidity? Huh? Yeah?
fat phobia. All of these are taking characteristics that people have little or no control over and determining that people are less than because of them.
No one is saying that you're less than. Oh, God. You definitely, your habits are not good if you're obese. It's your habits. We're not talking about your heritage there, champ.
The end result is people creating entire accounts filled with hatred built on attacking people of color, disabled people, and fat people.
Who is attacking people of color, disabled people, and fat people? Who's attacking disabled people? People are making accounts attacking people of color. Okay, it's all the same thing, right? People of color, disabled people, and fat people. So this is what we call the victim shield. Okay, this is the intersectionality. This is the defending. This is the ally portion. So you can, like, she's like emaciated and whatever's wrong with her, like, hopefully, you're doing the best that you can. I doubt it, because you're, playing the savior for everyone else. I don't know what your habits are like. I'm sure there's a lot of improvements that you can make, but you don't want to make them, because then I guess you can't garner love and attention based on the issues that you have, which are probably a product. Who knows? Okay. You're not giving us information. You're just projecting whatever you read in like the latest anti-racist book that came out from these grifters. You can't associate like this association with it's racism. It's ableism. Disabled people, black people of color, and fat people. Just because you're grouping them together doesn't make it the same. Same, but different. Same, but different. It's not. One of those is a choice. Which of these things is not like the other?
You also see this in the way that American culture has decided that foods from non-white nations are just inherently unhealthy.
Foods from non-white nations are just inherently unhealthy. Not true. Oftentimes they are, because of what they're made with. And a lot of times they are unhealthy. It's not inherently unhealthy. But like greasy tacos with vegetable oils and processed flour and low quality meat, that's not good. I don't care where it's from. Most of the shit in this country, quote unquote, this white nation, is unhealthy. Soy, corn oil, so that's not healthy either. You dumb. You dumb. I'm just wondering if that's the disability.
You've determined that an entire people's food
How is this going?
unhealthy, and pair it with the idea that what you eat makes you fat, which is not necessarily true.
Not necessarily true. Exceptions don't make the rule, even though that's pretty much always going to be part of the rule. Not necessarily true. Okay, dokie. Okay. Here we go.
And add on the belief that fatness causes illness, which
it does. It's also the product of the bad habits that led to the fatness and the other illnesses. Fatness is essentially an illness because it's the byproduct of you trashing yourself. And we know that the fat cells send signal to the body, and it changes how your body processes nutrients. Like it's there. It's there. So
again is not necessarily true. You end up with this disgusting gloop of fat-phobic, ableist white supremacy. There is a disproportionate amount of violence committed against disabled people.
I want proof. There is a disproportionate amount of violence. So one, this is someone who's never experienced violence, it seems. Do you know what that word means? I do not think you do.
Using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Let's see what the latest revisionist dictionary says about violence, because we know. I got to go get my dictionaries in the other room. I have like a 1950s or 60s dictionary before they started changing things. Violence, behavior or treatment in which physical force is exerted for the purpose of causing damage or injury. Physical force. Intense force or great power. So there's a disproportionate amount of violence committed against disabled people. All right. Where? Sounds like a front page news story. Person in wheelchair pushed off a bridge. Just Clockwork Orange style. Anyone? Where's the disproportionate amount of violence? Yes, there isn't. Gotcha.
People and people of color. Even if you are not personally committing violence against these groups, disabled people, fat people, and people of color.
Okay, so she was going to continue. You group all these together. Disproportionate amount of violence committed against disabled people, fat people, and people of color. That's not true. It's just not true. In this country, most of like the gun violence, for example, is perpetuated by young people of color. It's not true. It's not true. Fat people? Who's damaging and who's violent against fat people? You don't have to be violent against fat people. They're violent against themselves.
Even if you are not personally committing violence against these groups, you are contributing to it with the hateful vitriol that you call content. I hope one day you realize the effect of all of the hate you put into the world, and I hope one day you have to sit with the damage that you have done to some really wonderful people.
Like you? You're a wonderful person. Speaking of hate and vitriol, that was a very loving and compassionate video. That was great. That was great.